MOE assuming education responsibility for children rescued from GISBH. Malaysia's international reserves rise to $117.6 billion. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Onto Othman and you're watching Malaysia Tonight. The decision to revive the Ujian Pencapaian Sekolah Rendah or UPSR and Pentaksiran Tingkatan 3 or PT3 examinations must be made holistically and not based on just a single aspect. Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq said that for now, the ministry stands by its decision to abolish the two examinations. Fadlina said the ministry has made a reaffirmation to strengthen classroom-based assessment and training for teachers to ensure that nothing will affect the students' progress. She said this in response to calls for certain quarters urging the ministry to revive UPSR and PT3, which were abolished in 2022, claiming that their absence has partly contributed to students dropping out and not sitting for the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia examination. According to her, the ministry is currently focusing on the new approach for the 2027 school curriculum and is in the midst of drafting a new education development plan to guide the country's education for the next 10 years, starting in 2026. The Ministry of Education MOE is assuming responsibility for the education of over 300 children rescued through OP Global effective 1st October. Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq explained that a special curriculum would be developed for these children as many have not had access to formal education. Fadlina noted that the education process will take place at their current shelters where they are being cared for and protected.
Buat assessment terlebih dahulu. Ada beberapa assessment yang perlu kita lakukan termasuk dalam aspek 3M mereka, kemudian psikososial mereka dan kini mereka sedang melakukan sesi bersama kaunselor. Jadi selepas selesai semua sesi tersebut, jadi KPM akan ambil alih dalam aspek pendidikan.
Fadlina added that a special curriculum would be organized into 3 groups, namely preschool, primary and secondary school levels. She said the ministry is taking over the responsibility of the children's education to ensure, among others, that they have the opportunity to undergo the same learning sessions as other children. It was previously reported that the police, through OP Global, rescued over 400 individuals aged 1 to 17, suspected of being victims of exploitation in raids conducted at 20 charity homes under GISB Holdings, Sdn Bhd in Selangor and Negeri Sembilan. In a related development, 13 psychology experts from Health Ministry will conduct mental health assessments on 449 children rescued in OP Global. The assessments will take place at the temporary shelter of the affected children in Kuala Lumpur's Pulau Pol.
Kita sekarang menyediakan satu pasukan, mengetuai pasukan berkenaan tentang kesihatan mental seramai 10 pakar pegawai psikologis daripada NCHEMS, Pusat Kecemerlangan Kesihatan Mental Malaysia dan juga 3 psikologis daripada HKL yang membantu membuat saringan kesihatan mental kepada kanak-kanak tersebut dan juga terdapat aktiviti-aktiviti yang dilakukan oleh psikologi ini untuk membantu trauma-trauma kanak-kanak tersebut.
On the development of OP Global, which has entered Phase 4 on September 21st, a total of 156 individuals have been arrested involving raids on 280 premises in Peninsular Malaysia region. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razarudin Hussein said 187 victims, comprising of children aged 5 and above, were also rescued in the operation.
Sekarang ini, Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat telah pun membuka 11 rumah selamat untuk mangsa-mangsa yang diselamatkan ini. So, mangsa-mangsa yang selamat hari ini berjumlah 187 orang, di mana 100 laki-laki, 87 perempuan. Semua mangsa ini telah pun menjalankan saringan kesihatan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia dan juga telah pun akan diserahkan kepada Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat.
He said this in a press conference at the Kuala Lumpur Pulau Pol earlier this evening. On a related note, Tan Sri Razarudin said 153 accounts with values of over 800,000 ringgit linked to GISBH had been frozen under Section 44, Subsection 1 of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001. The National Technical and Vocational Education and Training Council, TVET, has agreed to set a premium salary for TVET graduates ranging from 2,500 to 4,000 ringgit. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the salary range was higher than the current minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit set by the government, and that the decision aimed to attract more TVET graduates to work in relevant sectors.
Kami juga telah mengadakan MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, dengan pihak majikan tadi, dengan pihak GLC, GLRC dan sekat-sekat swasta, di mana gaji premium itu dipersetujukan melebihi daripada minimum wage atau gaji minimum yang telah ditentukan oleh Kesuma. Dan ini akan lebih menarik lepasan TVET untuk bekerja di sektor-sektor tertentu.
He said this after chairing the TVET meeting and an engagement session with 66 government-linked and private companies alongside 12 TVET-related ministries in Putrajaya today. The companies that signed the MOA include Sai Park Sdn Bhd, Penang Port Sdn Bhd and Khazanah Nasional Berhad. Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid, who is also the chairman of the National TVET Council, emphasized that the salary determination was not based on employer associations or factory associations, but rather on an agreement between TVET institutions and companies offering the premium salary. The Malaysian Meteorological Department has issued a thunderstorm warning across the country, urging public to stay alert. The department said the phenomenon was caused by the transition into monsoon phase, which is expected to begin tomorrow.
Mungkin akan ada ribut petir pada waktu petang. Jadi cuba elakkan sebarang aktiviti pada waktu petang. Kita cuba untuk mengeluarkan amaran yang tepat dan sahih. Sebab kawasan kita tak semestinya sama menerima keadaan hujan yang lebat tu kan. Jadi kita perlu tahu akan keadaan tempat kita sendiri, dan juga jangan percaya kepada perkara-perkara viral yang boleh membawa kepada keadaan yang huru-hara sebenarnya. Sentiasa layari map Malaysia untuk mengetahui keadaan cuaca terkini.
Previously, Met Malaysia said in a statement that the monsoon transition phase will cause heavy rains along with thunderstorms and strong winds. It is expected to affect the western and inland areas of the peninsula, western Sabah, as well as western and central Sarawak. The veterans of the Malaysian Armed Forces ATM remain a top priority for the government through the Ministry of Defence. Now, the close ties between the government and the veterans are maintained to safeguard their welfare. Aiman Awazmin has more.
Pandangan saya supaya golongan veteran ni jangan dipinggirkanlah. Sebab usia diorang ni dah hampir-hampir lah hujung-hujung.
Sergeant Abdul Latif Ahmad, a former member of the 30th Royal Malay Regiment from 1981 to 1987, completed his last assignment at Mahkota Military Camp in Kluang in 2002. The father of 4 is currently undergoing hemodialysis treatment while relying on a wheelchair to move around following a tight muscle surgery. Fortunately, the veteran ATM early incentive aid provided by the government has alleviated some of his burdens.
Pada pandangan saya supaya golongan veteran ni jangan dipinggirkanlah. Sebab usia diorang ni dah hampir-hampir lah hujung-hujung. Jadi dia perlukan perhatian juga daripada kerajaan. bukan kerajaan pinggirkan, tidak, tapi dia memerlukan itu. Kadang-kadang ada di antaranya yang tak tahu macam mana, bagaimana nak menonjolkan diri, untuk menampilkan diri supaya dia tu tidak terlepas.
He's among the 21,000 veterans in Johor who receive continued support from the Department of ATM Veteran Affairs.
Kalau boleh jadikanlah kita kesejahteraan veteran ini sebagai salah satu agenda utama nasional. Jadi kalau kita ingin jadikan sebagai satu agenda nasional, ambillah aspek ini sebagai satu agenda yang penting dan juga tanggungjawab semua sekali. Apatah lagi dalam kerajaan kita, Malaysia madani, sejahtera dan lagi penuh ihsan.
Minister of Defence Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin also reaffirmed the government's commitment to continuous engagements with ATM veterans.
Kita tahu bahawa veteran ini merupakan mereka yang dahulu pernah berkhidmat dalam Angkatan Tentera. Kita sangat menghargai semasa mereka berkhidmat atas kesetiaan dan pengorbanan mereka, dan kita ingin tunjukkan bahawa perkhidmatan dalam Angkatan Tentera itu sangat istimewa. Walaupun mereka sudah berhenti, mereka masih lagi diberikan perhatian.
Uplifting and supporting ATM veteran is crucial as it stands as a powerful acknowledgement of their steadfast service and sacrifice for our nation. By honoring their contribution, we inspire younger generations, fostering a strong sense of patriotism. This is a shared responsibility that strengthens community bonds, ensuring their legacy of courage and dedication endures in our hearts and minds. Aiman Awazmin, RTM.
In our business segment, Malaysia's inflation rate for August eased to 1.9%. Stay tuned. Malaysia's central bank today noted that it is exploring ways to broaden the range of acceptable collateral during stress periods and improving the time taken to value such collateral. Bank Negara Malaysia BNM Governor Datuk Seri Abdul Rashid Ghaffur said there is a need for resolution planning for institutions not covered by Malaysia Deposit Insurance Corporation (PIDM), such as investment banks. He said the central bank will work with the industry and stakeholders on such initiatives.
A key aspect of this includes ensuring that our prudential frameworks, such as risk-based capital requirements and proportionality in regulation, remains robust and adaptive to the changing environment.
Datuk Seri Abdul Rashid was speaking at the National Resolution Symposium 2024 hosted by PIDM, where he also spoke on managing crisis in overseas operations and stressed the crucial need for effective communication strategies. He said financial institutions must thoughtfully plan how information is shared within the organization and with shareholders. Coordinated cross-border communications, he added, can significantly reduce the risk of confusion or misinformation during a crisis, as well as maintain public confidence. Meanwhile, Malaysia's international reserves rose to $117.6 billion as of 13th September from $116.8 billion as at 30th August. Bank Negara Malaysia BNM said the reserves position was sufficient to finance 5.5 months of imports of goods and services and was 1.0 times the total short-term external debt. The central bank said the main components of the reserves were foreign currency reserves at $105.4 billion, followed by international monetary fund reserves, special drawing rights, gold and other reserves. Total assets amounted to 653.59 billion ringgit, comprising gold and foreign exchange reserves, including special drawing rights, Malaysian government papers, deposits with financial institutions, loans and advances, land and buildings, and other assets. B&M said total capital and liabilities amounted to 653.59 billion ringgit, comprising paid-up capital, reserves, currency in circulation, deposits by financial institutions, federal government deposits, other deposits, Bank Negara papers, allocation of special drawing rights, and other liabilities. Malaysia's inflation rate for August has eased to 1.9%, with the Consumer Price Index CPI reaching 133.2 compared to 130.7 in the same month of the previous year. The Department of Statistics Malaysia said most states recorded inflation rates below the national average of 1.9%, except for Pulau Pinang, Pahang, Sarawak, and Selangor. It also highlighted that Malaysia's inflation was lower than of Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, and South Korea. However, it was higher than those in China and Thailand. The department attributed the inflation to increases in several key categories, including restaurant and accommodation services, personal care, social protection, miscellaneous goods and services, housing, water, and electricity. Conversely, clothing and footwear recorded a decline of 0.2% in August. The department also reported that the food and beverages group increased by 1.6% in August, the same rate as in July. Within this group, the main subgroup of food at home rose by 0.3%, primarily due to higher expenditure on vegetables, which saw an increase of 2.2%. In contrast, inflation for the meat expenditure class declined to negative 0.7%, with chicken accounting for 32.6% of this category, registering a decrease of 2.2%. Foreign investors remained net buyers of domestic equities for the sixth consecutive week, recording an inflow of 271.5 million ringgit last week. MIDF Amanah Investment Bank Berhad MIDF said local institutions such as also supported the bourse with their second consecutive week of net inflows. MIDF noted that during the shortened trading week, foreign investors net bought 167.7 million ringgit on Tuesday, 122.9 million ringgit on Thursday, and 57 million ringgit on Friday. However, it said foreign investors turned net sellers last Wednesday and disposed of 76.1 million ringgit on the day. MITF further said the sectors with the highest net foreign inflows were financial services, followed by healthcare and property. Meanwhile, the sectors with the highest net foreign outflows were utilities, technology, and consumer products and services. In terms of local participation, MIDF said local institutions continue to support the local bourse, net buying 38.7 million ringgit last week, marking their second consecutive week of net inflow. Local retailers net sold for the second week in a row, totaling 310.2 million ringgit. Malaysia's aviation passenger traffic is now forecast to recover to 94% this year, a sharp increase from the modest 4% growth initially projected. MIDF research said it recently revised its passenger traffic forecasts for Malaysia due to industry challenges, including aircraft delivery delays and shortages of parts and labor. The firm said the recent appreciation of the ringgit against the dollar and easing fuel prices are benefiting airlines, as most of their expenses, particularly jet fuel, are US dollar dominated. MIDF research also anticipates that the high yield environment will persist, with average fares likely to rise as Malaysia Airlines temporarily reduces capacity by 20% for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, it said the domestic sector recovery registered a slight increase of 2.3% year-on-year in August, driven by Subang Airport's jet operations following the introduction of new services by local airlines. MIDF research expects that this sector's recovery to stay within the 80 to 90% range for the remainder of the year, constrained by capacity limits as airlines focus on international markets with stronger demand. The Plantation and Commodities Ministry presented a proposal to the Ministry of Finance MOF last week to revise the windfall profit levy WPL on palm oil in the country. Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani said his ministry is now awaiting a response and decision from the MOF on the matter.
Jadi industri player hari ini dia datang jumpa saya dan juga MPOB. Mereka mengatakan bahawa windfall levy ini sudah mungkin tidak bersesuaian kerana kos dah meningkat over the period of time. Dulu kita nak produce 1 tan lebih kurang dalam RM1,800. Sekarang ni 1 tan of palm oil dia lebih kurang dalam ranges from RM2,800, RM3,000 lebih kurang macam tu.
He said this to reporters after the Malaysian Palm Industry Awards ceremony AISM 2023-2024 held in Putrajaya today. He said the WPL needs to be reviewed to ensure it remains relevant and to encourage further investment in the sector. On 6 July, Datuk Sri Johari said the KPK would collect data on costs across the palm oil industry before proposing any WPL revisions to the MOF ahead of the 2025 budget. Previously, the ministry has assessed the WPL issue raised by industry stakeholders and held discussions with relevant parties. Currently, a WPL rate of 3% is imposed on palm oil prices, exceeding 3,000 ringgit per ton in Peninsular Malaysia and 3,500 ringgit per ton in Sabah and Sarawak. The 2024 Bali International Air Show opens up great opportunities for AirAsia in realizing its sustainability goals. Through strategic partnerships with industry leaders like Airbus and Ground Team Red or GTR, as well as Eminent Strategic Group or ESG, the company is taking significant strides towards sustainable aviation practices. AirAsia and Airbus signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, focusing on exploring the production of sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, in Southeast Asia, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and minimizing the environmental impact of air travel.
And what is interesting is that this also helps us cut fuel costs. So we save $40 million in fuel costs to cut 2.4% of emissions. If we tried to do the same using SAF, it would have cost us $180 million.
Ground Team Red, or GTR, a joint venture between SATS Limited and AirAsia, also signed an MOU to collaborate with Eminent Strategic Group, or ESG, for the supply of electricity-based ground support equipment. This aligns with the industry's long-term goal of achieving zero carbon emissions by 2050.
We did one with Airbus. We are working with Petronas. This has to be partnership. You know, no one airline can do it by themselves. So we announced the ESG yesterday. That's our partnership. That's real. We're buying the equipment from them.
Bali International Air Show took place from 18th to 21st September in Agusti Ngurah Rai International Airport, attended by more than 5,300 trade participants from 51 countries. On the foreign front, Malaysia reaffirms unwavering support for the Palestinian cause. Stay with us. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim extended his congratulations to President Anura Kumara Dissanayake and the people of Sri Lanka following their successful elections. On his post, he congratulated the newly elected president and Sri Lanka on their successful elections. The Prime Minister said he looks forward to renewing the bonds of friendship with Sri Lanka soon and working together for the benefit of both nations. Anura, the 55-year-old leader of the People's Liberation Front, was announced the winner of the recent election with nearly 1.3 million more votes than his nearest rival on Sunday. Sri Lanka's leftist president-elect invited his compatriots to help him rewrite history in the cash-strapped island nation after winning a vote colored by discontent over an unprecedented financial crisis. Malaysia stressed the need of global cooperation to overcome the world's growing challenges. Representing Malaysia at the SOTF, held alongside the 79th United Nations General Assembly or UNGA this year, Foreign Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan, the time is now to stimulate a holistic global administration rooted in humanity.
By 2050, our planet will be a home to a population of 10 billion people. How will we feed the world then if we cannot do so now? Education is a tool to address inequality. Empowerment through knowledge will emancipate the underprivileged, lifting them out of poverty. Yet, in the global south, millions of children are deprived of this very fundamental right, the right to education. We must break barriers and ensure access, quality and affordability. The global community must democratize education.
He also touched upon conflicts and challenges that are becoming costlier and deadlier each year, from the inability to stop the genocide in Gaza to the impacts of climate change and the widening gap between the global south and north. He added that addressing the interconnected challenges of food security, education and climate change is essential, noting that progress on these fronts under the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, remains far behind schedule. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Muhammad reaffirmed Malaysia's unwavering support for the Palestinian cause. He also said that the country is committed to advancing the efforts to implement the recently adopted United Nations resolutions aimed at providing legal clarity on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories. The matter was discussed during a bilateral meeting between Datuk Seri Muhammad and Palestinian Prime Minister Muhammad Mustafa, held on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, 2024 on Sunday. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said the meeting highlighted Malaysia's steadfast commitment to supporting Palestine in its struggle for sovereignty and justice. Both leaders explored ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation and coordinated efforts, particularly focusing on the implementation of the General Assembly resolution on the International Court of Justice (ICJ) advisory opinion regarding Palestine, adopted on 19th July. In tennis, Brazil's Beatriz Haddad Maia won the fourth title of her career with a furious fight back to beat Russia to seed Daria Kasatkina 1-6, 6-4, 6-1 in Sunday's Korea Open final. Number 3 seed Haddad Maia lost the opening set in just 26 minutes, but turned the tide in the second before going on to close out the match in a gutsy performance in Seoul. Neither player had dropped a set on their way to the Seoul's decider, and both played 2 matches on Saturday after heavy rain wiped out the previous day's play. Kasatkina broke Haddad Maia twice on the way to winning the first set. She broke her opponent again in the first game of the second set and held serve before Haddad Maia began to threaten for the first time in the match. The momentum shifted when the 28-year-old Haddad Maia broke back midway through the second set and then took the lead for the first time. The Brazilian argued a call with the umpire but kept her cool to take the second set. Haddad Maia went a breakup in the third and stayed ahead as Kasatkina began to crumble. The world number 17 broke again and closed out the final when Kasatkina hit a return long. That's it from us this evening. In our top story, MOE to assume education responsibility of children rescued for charity homes linked to GISBH on October 1st. Join us tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 p.m. on TV2 and saluran Berita RTM for more. Or you can catch us, always stream us online on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, Malaysia Madani, from nearer to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Otto Othman. Have a pleasant evening.